Streaming. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order for Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. And we will first do our land acknowledgement, and I'll turn things over to Whitney. Hey, I'm going on vacation. Smithers.
Barbados.
Starting now. Jill's going to do it. Thank you, Council. So, in thinking about the land acknowledgement, I was reflecting on the weather that we've experienced end of December and into January. A lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of people concerned about snow and ice. And from there, I started thinking about climate change and the reality of it, and the reality that we know our weather will continue to be warmer, wetter, and wilder in the coming years. And then I got thinking about climate adaptation and thinking that the adaptation isn't just about changes in technology or processes. I believe that some of that adaptation has to be in our expectations of our experience on the land. So from there, I started thinking about experiences on the land and an Indigenous response to that. And then I went down into a rabbit hole that was kind of turning my land acknowledgement into a thesis. So I backed up a bit. But the rabbit hole really got me thinking about two things that are close to us. One is the Plains Bison Reintroduction Project that started with 16 Plains Bison reintroduced into the backcountry in Banff, in Banff National Park in 2017, and resulted in a herd that's now over 130. And that has deep cultural relevance for Indigenous nations in Treaty 7, as well as biodiversity impacts. And then from there, I was thinking about the Tindimamon Ecological Corridor project that the Stoney Nakoda are working on. And again, really meaningful from an Indigenous perspective, but then also impacts on biodiversity and actually helping animals navigate a changing climate and respond to it. And from there, I was just appreciating a note that I sent to my daughter this morning, actually, that was about maybe the amount of good things in your life depends on your ability to see them. And I feel really fortunate to live in a part of the world where we can see good things like traditional ecological knowledge being reflected in significant projects that affect biodiversity and our changing climate, and the rights of Indigenous people through projects like the Plains Bison Reintroduction and the Tindimamon Ecological Corridor Project. And I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful to be able to see those things and live in a part of the world where they happen pretty much in our backyard. So with that, I want to acknowledge and appreciate that we are meeting today in the Treaty 7 region. This land is the traditional territory and home of the Ayarhe Nakota Nations of the Bearspaw, Goodstoney, and Chiniki, the Blackfoot Confederacy of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani, the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Métis District 4 region of the Battle River Territory. And as we gather here in this territory, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people. I commit to working to live in right relations, to advance truth and reconciliation, and to acknowledge the many First Nations and Métis whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations.
Great, thank you very much. Now turning to the agenda, any changes? No changes. So I'll move approval of the agenda for the January 20th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, we're starting things off with a delegation from our friends at the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley. And Ms. Van Gaal, are you going to introduce our speaker today? Great. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Caitlin Van Gaal. I am the Supervisor of Environment and Sustainability here with the Town of Canmore for the new faces in the room. And I'm here today to introduce Gareth Thompson, the Executive Director of the Biosphere Institute at the Bow Valley. The Biosphere and the team there work very closely with me and my team here at the town to move forward on Council's priorities on human-wildlife coexistence and climate change mitigation and adaptation. And so with that, I would like to hand it over to Gareth Thompson so he can share all the great work that they completed in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, welcome to Community of the Whole. Take whatever time you need there to bring the presentation up, and then whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours. You'll have to just adjust it so it's pointing right at your mouth. Thanks.
Big thanks to Ms. Van Gaal for the introduction, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thanks for the time, the chance to have a chat about what we did last year. And I'll just, this will be a slide-supported presentation. Our mission as a nonprofit is to empower community leadership to address environmental challenges. I want to share with council the fact that this year staff and board are together feeling that we are, with every passing year, we're increasingly stepping into our ability to deliver on this mission and becoming true community leaders according to our own high and exacting standards. And you be the judge. I'll show you what we did last year. But this organization was founded by the town of Canmore just under 30 years ago, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve. So in essence, what I'm going to do is talk about the various accomplishments of my staff. This is the six of us right now at a recent event. We'll begin with Tanya Pahalak, who leads our community hub work. And Tanya, among many other accomplishments, leads our work on the annual community square dance and fundraiser. She leads a number of community workshops, including this one that's done in partnership with Bow Valley Pride. This is Nature's Coming Out story, Animal Pride, a panel discussion and movie viewing that we held in 2025. Other community workshops include our work to support Canmore's water conservation strategy. I actually led this initiative, and we got rid of over 100 rain barrels to willing Canmore folk for $80, a subsidized rate, thanks to EPCOR. Tanya, in the spring, led a community cleanup in partnership with the Filipino Association, and we're thrilled by the degree to which we have been able to partner with equity-deserving populations in this valley. Here we have Daryl Kootenay in the photograph leading one of our workshops on navigating climate grief and anxiety together. To cut to our work on circular economy, in both Canmore and Banff, we held Share and Repair fairs. This photograph shows some of our students with whom we also work doing a trash pageant and engaging folks in really the need for a circular economy and how to repair your gear and other really valuable dimensions of the Share and Repair space. We also, in recognition of the plight of Jasper, we held a Jam for Jasper fundraiser. We've done this a couple of times, actually. Below you'll see musicians jamming for Jasper, and to the right you'll see some community members selling jam for Jasper as part of our successful fundraiser on that front. Just a few short months ago, we held this Municipal All Candidates Forum on the Environment. We did this in both Canmore and Banff, using an agenda cobbled together and questions cobbled together by various members of the environmental community that I was lucky enough to convene. Here's the team and friends at the Truth and Reconciliation Day Walk in Meneathny. We take this very seriously, and we do enjoy working with our First Nations relations and friends, and we do good work on that file. Another partnership here is with the Canmore Public Library. On the right, you'll see Caitlin Miller hanging out with the likes of Bill Hunt and John Paskowski and so on to talk about fire guards and human-wildlife coexistence and other topics, as you can see, that we have throughout the year. This is a series of workshops sponsored by the Canmore Rotary Foundation. Harnessing the Power of Food is a partnership with the Co-Kitchen aimed at both helping people eat in a healthy manner, but also helping them with the affordability crisis and helping them really learn how to make good food at a low cost and food waste and so on and so forth. It's a very valuable activity. And Community Hub does amazing work, 20 plus events, 1,400 attendees, and I'm just super proud of the partnerships that are listed there. We work really hard to create and strengthen those relationships, and it shows. And I'm note about the digital engagement that we have. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is our nimbleness and our interaction with the community, and the many points of contact we have through our newsletters and social media. I think we're pretty good at that. On to WildSmart. Nick DeRuyter's in the center of the frame here. Nick delivers wildlife safety and bear spray training to audiences such as Canmore Settlement Services Group, children's programs. Here he is at the Mountain Equipment Co-op delivering bear spray and wildlife safety training for staff. We want to leverage that and get in front of even more sets of eyes through a social enterprise, which is a little business that we'd run as part of our charity, where we'd expand the reach and scope of WildSmart, and getting in front of those different audiences and generating some unrestricted revenue for the organization. Nick does pre-race talks. We're enormously proud of our wildlife ambassadors and their impact. We have 31. Last year they contributed 1,200 hours and contacted over 12,000 residents and visitors with relevant messages to help them have a good time and have an enjoyable time on the trails in a way that respects wildlife and that keeps them safe as well. We have an annual Bear Day that we do in partnership with the Alberta Parks. Here we are at the Nordic Centre last April. Thanks in large part, and I just want to say just how much we appreciate working with Caitlin and Amy and her team. Thanks to some additional funding from the town of Canmore, we have the Keep Wildlife Alive Ambassador Program. These three contractors specifically go door to door to talk about wildlife attractants, not only in the town of Canmore, but this is a photograph of one of them in Exshaw, and we were able to do that to extend our capacity using some funding from the MD of Bighorn to help really increase the reach of this program in the valley. New this year are a series of posters we've got at trailheads and in hotels. Are you prepared for a wildlife encounter? And if you scan the QR code there, because you don't think you're necessarily prepared for a wildlife encounter, that's our landing page on the wildsmart.ca, where you can learn to use your Bear Smart or learn, there's 9 topics that you can dive down like a rabbit into a rabbit hole. So there's that. More recently, and just earlier this year, in January, of course, our recent efforts around the Canmore Area Trails Master Plan, the deadline is tomorrow to let the government know what one's feedback and one's commentary on the existing master plan. Last Wednesday we had, this is a photograph of 225 of our closest friends gathered in Creekside Hall just to discuss the issue. Do you hear from CAMBA? Do you hear from other partners? And hear a call to take action. Again, with the Bear Report, some 5,000 subscribers and a whole bunch of followers, we have a really good outreach for our WildSmart program as well. Turning to Climate Smart, not Bear Smart, not WildSmart, but Climate Smart, formerly our SHIFT program. Kendra's on the left, Grace is on the right, she's on a mat leave right now. Programs include Plug and Drive, with our Electric Vehicles Are for Everyone program, our Green Buildings Open House, a chance for people to see how people pull off this challenge of having near net zero homes. Through this program, we run this Community Wildfire Resilience Program in partnership with the town of Canmore. We supporting Fire Smart Champions, a door-knocking campaign, working closely with the town and the fire chief. We created this video highlighting the work in Peaks of Grassy. Some great metrics from the program. I won't get into that, shortage of time and all that stuff. Happy to be supporting the Fruit Tree Replacement Program. And there's a before and after shot of one of our candidates. With more incentives left for 2026 that we were able to parlay into the future here. Happy to report that our 3rd annual Building for Sustainability Symposium, delivered in partnership with Bodo, was a big success. There's me on the left with my friend and colleague, Ali Piper. sold out again, good ratings. Recognizing that building and real estate professionals require more than just a day and a half per year to learn their stuff, we have a series of workshops delivered in partnership with the Emissions Neutral Building Information Exchange on these topics. That series will conclude in February. And we also coordinated the Green Team at the Canmore Folk Fest for the third or fourth year in a row, and just a shot of our outreach there through our newsletter. Last but not least, we have a wonderful program lead for our Future Leaders Education Program. Given the time, and because this is not directly funded by the town of Canmore, I'll leave it there and answer any questions that you folks might have about what we do with the wonderful children of the Valley. And in conclusion, I'll say, look, thanks for everything this year. It's been a wonderful year, and I'm thrilled to bits with the leadership that comes from council and administration at the town of Canmore. One of the reasons we do so well in delivering on our mission is because of the fabulous partnership and the resources and year-over-year contributions of folks like Councillor Ma, but then currently Councillor Graham on the board of the organization. So thanks to both of you. Happy to address any questions you might have.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Very, very full and wonderful presentation, and your time management is incredible. And so it's appreciated. There's a lot covered there, a lot to be proud of. I think certainly from my perspective, a lot that I'm proud of. Thank you for the work of the Biosphere. I will open it up to questions here. First off, Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Mayor Krausert, and thank you, Mr. Thompson, for your presentation. Looking forward into 2026, what programs are you excited to deliver through the Biosphere? And what challenges do you anticipate encountering along the way?
So just a small question then, Councillor Faubert. Okay. Well, one of the things that we just received word of a $103,000 grant from the Calgary Foundation to accelerate our work on the circular economy. I mention that because I know that's a bit of a passion project for you, Councillor Faubert. Thank you for all your contributions on that front. And so we'll be, in partnership with the town of Canmore, we'll be opening up a reuse center and partnering with the Francis Cook place to try and keep garbage out of the landfill, because a lot of it isn't garbage. A lot of it is couches and appliances and things that could and should be reused. So that's a new and exciting example of what we're looking at here. As executive director, it would be wrong if I didn't mention the ongoing challenge of securing enough funding to do our work. One of the things that I'm really excited about, given the priority, so I invited the board, and the board instituted in its strategic plan 7 months ago the notion of playing a more active role in Fire Smart. I'm grateful to the councillors involved to kind of for their leadership on that. It turns out not to be easy to raise money for that, so we have a machinery to support the town of Canmore that's ready to go for year 2, and I need to pay staff. So wish me luck with that, and we're asking insurance companies. We've got lots of lures in the water there, but you know the constant bugbear of trying to come up with enough with adequate resources to deliver quality programs is it's always there and won't go away, but that's okay. We've met the challenge relatively well so far. So wish me luck with the Fire Smart piece.
All right, good luck. And Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Krausert. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for that excellent presentation. Biosphere, you do so much. It's amazing. And so much either in conjunction with or parallel to many of the town of Canmore's climate action plan goals as well. I had no idea that there was a social enterprise component to Wild Smart. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so social enterprise is basically a profit-making venture that's nested within a charity. So the work of the social enterprise must deliver on the goals and objects of the charity to stay within bounds for the Canada Revenue Agency. This will do that. Really, we're looking at, and it's not a lot more than a sparkle in my eye, a twinkle in my eye right now, Councillor Murray. But I've just hired somebody who will help deliver on that. And success will look like our staff getting in front of, on a fee-for-service basis, any outdoor recreation business in the Valley and any hotel in the valley that has staff that interact with their visitors, helping even more staff understand what human-wildlife coexistence looks like and how to use a darn bear spray. So the other piece we'll look at is the notion of an interpretive presentation for visitors to help them understand. We're thinking of organizing it around the bear, the grizzly bear, and if you will, the plight of wildlife in the valley, the challenges met, and how animals meet those challenges, and just more about them and how to be safe on the trails and so on. But it'll be more like a natural history and interpretive piece, the world of the great bear or bear necessities or some such thing. So watch this space, I guess, is what I would say.
I love all that. That's great. And just one more question, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think at one point in time, the Biosphere was involved in community generation. Is that still a project that is part of your portfolio, or am I?
Yeah, I think you're referring to community energy, electrical generation through. So community generation is the notion of large commercial buildings with solar panels on top, and then there's this, as epitomized by the work of the Bow Valley Green Energy Co-op in town. Biosphere created BVGEC, created that group. We still help support them with the education and engagement around new sites and around potential investors. And so it's playing, it's an important, but if you will, peripheral part of our work, because we've got the Bow Valley Green Energy Co-op doing good work on that front. But we were sort of the midwives of that group, and we have, as you can appreciate, we have that same kind of maternal love of that activity. And it's a really important one. It turns out that if you want to quickly mitigate the impact of climate, going electric is the way to go, and going electric using the generation of electricity through non-renewable power, such as solar, is very much the way to go. So we're excited about that.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Marin.
Thanks, Mayor Crowser, and thanks, Mr. Thompson, for being here this afternoon. I just have a question about the Wildlife Ambassador Program. So I think you said there was approximately 30-some volunteers who put in 1,200 plus hours, which is incredible. I'm just wondering if there's any desire or opportunities to expand that program, just with our increased visitorship and an opportunity for, residents and visitors, obviously, but to increase that education. Is that one avenue that might be a possibility to grow that program, or is there any future plans for making that larger?
I think your question is, what about the possibility to increase the capacity and increase the numbers, quite frankly, of that program? And if Nick de Ruyter were here, he would be tearing out his hair at that even the remote. No, he wouldn't. But he would say, great question. Councillor Marin, wonderful question. Thanks for the great question. And then he'd say, it takes me a significant amount of my time to wrangle 31 volunteers out of the landscape, some young people, some retired people. There's training involved. And so my understanding from him, and he's a man of pretty great capacity, but that 30 or 35 is kind of the tops for his own capacity. The opportunity is to get them in front of people more hours it's an average of 40 hours per person. There's the opportunity to up that once they're all fully trained. So we do keep our eye on that. Goodness knows the need isn't going away as new residents move in, as there's a changeover of residents, and of course, let's not forget the hundreds of thousands of visitors, millions of visitors to this area. So does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah, I was just curious because it just seems like such an opportunity to, just for education, particularly for visitors, but residents as well, that this might be one opportunity to kind of have that education rolled out. But I understand there's capacity and volunteers and all of those aspects as well. So I was just curious to see if there was plans to try to grow that.
Well, I was interviewed by 2 grade 10 students just last night from Calgary, actually, from EP Scarlett High School, and they're like, what are you most proud of? And it's the WildSmart program, and in fact, this big ripple on the landscape through 31 talented volunteers that I mentioned is the thing that I'm most proud of. So would that there could be more, and we'll keep looking at that. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I also recognize that you do so much. It's not just this piece. I was just questioning about that, but yeah, thank you for giving us an update on everything.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great questions. Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Thompson. Amazing. That's interesting. You mentioned EP Scarlett because that's where I went to high school in Calgary. So One of the things I really like about the Biosphere is how quickly you guys can pivot to like topics at hand and like be effective. Case in point, CAT MP, deadline is tomorrow for public engagement. You guys are able to get a forum out. How do you guys decide like where to turn your like attentions towards as we move through the year with like issues? Because sometimes there's emergent things that happen, and sometimes I think there's probably things that are happening that are bubbling up over the years.
Yeah, that's a great question. And to paraphrase the question, just to make sure I've got it, is like, how do you decide what to focus on
Yeah.
when these new things pop up, like some kind of whack-a-mole activity? Which mole are you going to whack, or do you let it go? And there's one of the things. So it's in large part my idea. Commonly, because I'm the guy who happened to, I've been asked to kind of lead the strategic work of the organization. Nothing about this would ever happen without wonderful support and thoughtful support from the board, and you know so well, Councillor Ma, just how well that works. And so I use them as a sounding board. So like, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this Fire Smart thing?
Right.
Should it be in our strategic plan? Because I think it should. And so. That prioritization exercise it's not, goodness knows we'd have zero capacity were not for the fabulous staff that I showed you a photograph of, and also, of course, like a far-seeing board with the wisdom to say, you know what, agreed, make that happen, and let us know how it goes and how we can help. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Because like I feel sometimes like what happens is like I'll see a trend while I'm out and about on the trails, and like I think probably one of the big things I've seen like starting last year and even the year before, and I think this year hopefully it doesn't keep getting worse. But it's like, why do people just leave their toilet paper on the side of the trail? Is this the sort of thing that we need to message along when you guys are in front of like visitors, saying this is basic etiquette for like off-leash dogs. This is how we like handle wildlife. And by the way, pack out your stuff. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Can I just add too that
Sure.
of the many inputs that we receive, and I receive, one of this wonderful lady sitting behind me, Caitlin Van Gaal, and her team are highly effective and highly influential. For example, we meet the Biosphere team. Caitlin and I meet once every 2 months. My team and her team meet twice a year. And Amy Fournier said, wouldn't it be nice? It's a good plan, Biosphere. It would be lovely if you could show some love to electric vehicles, because it's so important, and because it's a strategic priority that for the town of Canmore. And so that's why we had the EVs Are Forever program over the summer in Banff and Canmore with the metrics that I showed you. And so that's listening well and listening hard to influential people like your administration and indeed your council, like your fellow councillors, is an important input. Mayor Krausert and I have collaborated on several important things in connection with the Roundtable on Human-Wildlife Coexistence. And we have capacity and the willingness, and sometimes the good ideas don't come from us, and that's the way it should be, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you just for being such a responsive organization. You guys have been great.
Thanks, Councillor Mall.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Krausert. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for coming here. And thank you to fielding all those great questions. Lots of great work that you guys are doing. I've attended a lot of your events over the past term, and I was blown away at how many people were actually coming out to these things, like at the library, and especially the other night for the CATS presentation. I was blown away by a packed house in there. Fantastic. But I think one of the things you might have missed is, I was at a local store the other day, and I was looking at bear spray, and it was $80. And I believe there's a little bit of a program that you guys do for bear sprays to kind of keep them, more affordable, as well as out of landfills. I wonder if you could talk on
Sure.
that little piece of it.
Thank you, Councillor Graham, for that leading question. I love it.
You're welcome. I know how to set them up.
So a couple of years ago, we decided as a team to go after the sources of unused bear spray. So the average visitor comes here, wants to do the right thing, buys bear spray for $80, doesn't use it, has to get back on a plane, so they have to leave it somewhere, and that somewhere is commonly, the most common place these days is the Information Center in Banff National Park, in the town of Banff. And so we've done, I think, quite a good job of scooping those up and making sure that they're non-expired, making sure they haven't been used by weighing them, and then repurposing them through settlement services primarily, to make sure that folks who can't necessarily afford $80 but still want to do the right thing have the opportunity. We also gave them out to certain folk at the Share and Repair Fair, and happy to do that redistribution in part as part of the affordability measures that we all must be taking to try and make life more livable and more affordable for folks who come to this area. So thanks for that question. Anything you want to add there? Or?
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't rib you a little bit for the 92 questions that the electorates had to study for your forum. But you know, aside from that, great work.
Yeah, to answer one. Yeah, appreciated that. So thank you very much for coming here today. I'm very glad that in your answer to questions you referenced the Human-Wildlife Coexistence Roundtable, because you do play along with John Bukowski, co-chairs of the technical working group, and of course that's that's important work, and it's regional. It's a regional connection. As well as a connection with the province. So yeah, thanks for all of that. Thanks for being here today. Look forward to hearing this time next year what you got up to in 2026.
Okay.
Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thanks to you and council and your fabulous administration. Cheers.
Thanks. Okay, we're going to move on to the minutes. Item C1. Is anybody notice any errors or omissions from the December 16th minutes? Seeing none, I'll move approval of the minutes of the December 16th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to item D, staff reports. And we have a few today. The first one is Public Art Plan. Ms. McPherson, are you doing the introductions?
I am, yes.
Well, welcome, and whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. Afternoon, Mayor Krausert and members of council. My name is Jeannie McPherson, and I'm the Supervisor of Arts and Culture. And on behalf of the administration, I'm pleased to bring forward the Public Art Plan, Capital Project 7271, which is being presented this afternoon to the Committee of the Whole for comment and any questions before coming to council with the recommendation that it be accepted for planning purposes. And I'm pleased to introduce this afternoon our speaker that will guide council through a summary presentation of the Public Art Plan. Ms. Alexandra Hatcher, his partner with Hatley Group, and serves as the firm's project lead for the Public Art Plan. And joining me in the room this afternoon is Eleanor McClett, Manager of Economic Development, Sue Haddock from Arts and Culture Coordinator, and as well as Christine Moreland as the chair of the Cultural Advisory Committee. With that, I'll hand it over to Alexandra to start the presentation.
Welcome to Committee of the Whole, and take your time to get ready, and whenever you are ready, the microphone's all yours, and just make sure you point it towards your mouth. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, for the opportunity to present today. As Jeannie mentioned, my name is Alexandra Hatcher, and I am one of the partners in Hatley Group, an Alberta-based consulting firm working primarily with arts, heritage, and culture sector organizations across Canada. We guide processes to help public sector and nonprofit organizations work more effectively, strategically, and in service to their communities in sustainable ways. In January of 2025, we were engaged by the town of Canmore to facilitate the development of a public art plan. We began the process with the development of a relationship map to understand the individuals, organizations, and groups that are impacted by the public art program and who may influence decision-making for the program. We conducted a review of an internal town of Canmore documents related to public art and placemaking, including the policies that the plan needed to be aligned with. As well, we reviewed the public art collection inventory, including a number of site visits to view pieces in situ. We conducted individual interviews with administration on the internal processes connected to public art and an external review of processes with artists who have pieces in the collection. We held group discussions with the Cultural Advisory Committee, nation-based Indigenous public art coordinators, and artists from the Stoney Nakoda Nations. As well, we researched comparable municipalities' approaches to managing public art programs, and we convened an interdepartment public art working group, now known as the Public Art Cross-Departmental Team, or PACT, and drafted our terms of reference and meeting tools for the group. The public art, a microgrant policy, was a primary town policy that we worked to ensure the plan was aligned with, and there were other policies and plans that needed to be considered. We explored the Canmore Cultural Master Plan and the Connect Downtown Town Centre Redevelopment Plan, as both had a number of recommendations regarding public art that actually informed the strategy development. And in our engagement work, there were a number of overlapping themes that came up in almost all of the conversations. We heard that public art in Canmore should authentically reflect the land, the stories, and the people, fostering a sense of place, belonging, and community while balancing creative expression. Through early, inclusive relationship building, which is grounded in respect for Indigenous protocols and ceremony, and by encouraging flexibility, trust, and innovation in the creative process, public art can move beyond tourist appeal to become a meaningful, thought-provoking expression of community vibrancy and shared identity. All of this led to the development of a series of strategies for the Town of Canmore's public art plan. The plan documents 5 strategies that will focus decisions, actions, resources, and allocation of capacity in the coming years. We have recommended that an annual plan be developed based on the resources and capacity available to the town and the public art program, as resources and capacity have the possibility of shifting on an annual basis. Having clear strategic direction that informs good decisions will provide administration with the pillars for decision-making, as well as understanding the need for clarity for annual budget processes, identifying site locations for calls to artists, completing installation, and so on. The annual plans that can then be implemented more realistically and to be achievable. The framework is then agile, scalable, and responsive to community. It can take into consideration social and political contexts, as well as the fiscal environment. It is a holistic and systems-based approach, providing process and parameters rather than prescriptive solutions. This approach takes the realities that the municipality is facing with resource or capacity allocation into consideration to truly support a successful program. The public art strategies of nurturing a sense of place. The public art program showcases Canmore's unique setting and its growing community. Amplifying Indigenous cultures, past, present, and future, the public art program provides meaningful opportunities for Indigenous artists, curators, and administrators. Innovative and creative placemaking is at the heart of the public art program, delivering unexpected opportunities to engage in art, history, and culture throughout the community. Collaborating for success, both internally among Town of Canmore departments and externally with a diverse cross-section of community members, artists, and organizations, contributes to a dynamic community fabric. And managing the public art program effectively and efficiently ensures that decisions are purposeful and inclusive, focused on learning and awareness, and reflect Canmore's vibrant community. The plan includes priorities for each strategy to focus the actions, as well as indicators of success to measure if the program is actually achieving what it set out to do. We also developed an implementation guide to bring together the many procedural documents that were currently being used or were present within Canmore's public art program and put them all in one place. It also provided the opportunity to align with best and comparable practices for public art programs, specifically for municipalities of similar size and geographic characteristics, such as mountain town or near large urban center, and that had an approved public art plan in place as well. The implementation guide offers 7 steps to support clear, holistic processes from identifying how an artwork will be acquired through to selecting the artist, and the project, to installation, and then maintaining the artwork. Each step has detailed actions, policy alignments, and connections to either the role of Arts and Culture Coordinator, the Cultural Advisory Committee's work, or the Public Art Cross-Departmental Team's responsibilities and accountabilities. The final report provided administration with a series of specific recommendations to support effective and efficient management of the program, and we broke them down to short, medium, and long-term priorities. For short term, in the next 1 to 2 years, these recommendations should be implemented to support clarity, cohesion, and a strong foundation for implementing the public art plan and actioning the public art program implementation guide. In the medium term, 3 to 5 years, these recommendations can begin to be discussed now and early actions taken to support their full implementation within the next 3 to 5 years. These recommendations may require cross-departmental support, series of decisions and approvals, and appropriate time spent before planning before implementation. And then finally, the long-term and ongoing recommendations. These should be discussed, prioritized, and actioned on an ongoing basis as the public art program continues to evolve. They are a guiding approach and long-term commitments to support the public art program and the strategies of the public art plan. Thank you for your support of this project, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Hatcher, for that presentation. And I certainly enjoyed going through the materials, and in particular, the inventory. It brought back a lot of memories as we see some things that maybe are not around or things he had forgotten about and appreciate. It's certainly a very valuable asset to our community as our public art, and so taking steps towards protecting that and creating the inventory and managing it is very important. So thank you very much. Councillor Murray, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Krauser, and thank you so much for that presentation and the very robust presentation that was available in our agendas that I thoroughly enjoyed reading as well. I'm curious, the public art plan, and the integration with Arts Place. I mean, how much was our local arts center integrated into the plan or considered for the plan?
So we did reach out. We had they were one of the participants in our small group and individual interview process or engagement process. So we talked with them about their plans and what that looks like in the context of their relationship with the town. We talked about their role in the future as far as supporting public art and public art projects. They were very aware of what we were doing, obviously very aware of the cultural master plan. So they were involved, but one of many that were participated in the engagement process.
Yeah, I mean, you talk a lot about resources and capacity, and I think, that's definitely a resource and capacity that could potentially be tapped in a more fulsome way with the town of Canmore and what we're doing as well.
And there's lots of opportunity to involve community members of all different organizations, groups, and interested individuals in the various processes from selection and celebration and programming. There's lots of opportunities to work collaboratively together.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Hatcher, for your presentation. I'm particularly interested in accessibility, and I know that when it comes to plans, accessibility is a term that can be used in different ways. One to just mean a space can be accessed by anyone, and one to be about creating accommodations for people who have mobility or invisible disabilities. And from the second perspective, I'm just wondering how the plan incorporates people with disabilities throughout the entire process, from art calls, selection, the types of art being chosen, to installation, and sites, how we choose sites, and then whether or not we are making our public art, when it's installed, universally accessible in terms of people everyone can come and experience that art. And that's the one area where I wanted to engage in some discussion, because that's something I'm passionate about. So thank you.
Understandable, yes. So the concept of accessibility is kind of baked into the principles and the purpose of the program. And there's lots of different ways in which that can be addressed. Everything from, again, similar to what I just mentioned around the individuals who are involved in the process, from selection and on, to the communication of the works and opportunities to expand on information in different formats, so that those that might be visually impaired or have other accessibility issues that they can't, mobility issues that they can't go up to a particular piece, that you can still gather information on, and there are some of that of those technologies being used now. And then I think that one of the things to consider is the different types of art that is included in the public art program. And we included a very, very comprehensive list of what public art could actually be. And so there's lots of different ways to then inform the types of calls. So maybe you're doing a temporary, very site-specific in a place that is going to be dedicated to people of certain disabilities, or whether it's physical or mobility or intellectual, versus a piece that might be up a hill on the side or on a path that you might just come across. So there's lots of opportunities to expand on that. Jeannie, did you want to answer and respond anymore? No. That's okay? Okay.
And it's an identity that has intersectionalities as well. So it's a space where we're actually creating more inclusiveness if we are intentional there. And so that's something I want to bring to the table always as in my feedback. But I think that I see a lot, this is amazing, and I am so excited about public art that I'm going to turn my microphone off.
Councillor Marin.
Thank you, Mayor Crosser. Thank you very much for the presentation and the detailed report. I'm just wondering if you can expand a little bit on the community engagement component. So I know that there's a note about there being a significant amount of engagement with the Camera Cultural Master Plan and Connect Downtown. So it wasn't skipped over for this, but it wasn't a priority necessarily. But then I also see in the long term actively involve Indigenous elders, knowledge keepers, and community members in the public art program. And then I noticed that the pact is made up of Town of Canmore staff only. So I'm just wondering, it's not a criticism, I'm just wondering where the community engagement fits into it, what that looks like kind of on a more specific level as to when people can provide feedback as far as the selection, programming, implementation, and what that might look like.
Mm-hmm. Within the implementation guide, there's actually a number of different points of contact with community, everything from site selection, informing when the site is chosen, informing individuals, residents, and people who walk through particular areas that this is happening. And then again, there's opportunities to engage directly, whether it's through the selection committee process or programming and so on. So from when the program continues to evolve as it is and following some of the guidelines and principles in the plan and implementation guide, I think there will be actually more opportunities than there have been in the past for community members, residents, people who who have an interest in, and those who are concerned about the impact on their own neighborhoods and the areas in which are important to them, to voice their opinions, their concerns, and for that to be taken into consideration. So that is actually baked into many of the steps throughout the program. And with our process specifically, because there had been so much work done on both from the cultural master plan perspective, from community engagement there, as well as the downtown plan, the decision was made to, we knew what those recommendations are, so taking that from the community and ensuring that was absolutely incorporated into our work, and then understanding to extreme detail how things worked now with the town administration. That was the focus, is to understand the process and how, from everything from how decisions are being made to the way in which calls are put forward to artists. So that's why there was that decision was made.
Perfect, thank you. And has there been any discussion about including a community member or non-Town of Canmore member of the pact?
So PACT is very much an internal committee. The idea is that there are many intersections with different departments throughout the town, and so bringing them all together on a very scheduled, regular basis to have those conversations for everything from that site selection process through to understanding the maintenance requirements, installation, and who might be needing to be involved in that, all the way through to life cycle and potential repair or restoration. So the intention, and this came actually as a recommendation from the Cultural Master Plan, that there be an internal working group. So that evolved to what PAC became. And then the selection committee probably is the most public-facing opportunity for community members to be involved with.
Excellent, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Sorry.
If I may, Councillor, Mayor Crosser and Council. So part of the pact is a learning that we had through many larger public art installations. So often public art doing a major art installation was something that was thought up within the team. not always in consultation with like parks who will maintain it, or engineering who has to do the technical side of things. Part of creating that internal process is also working with what are the capacities within other teams to take on that additional work, and what are the technical skills that are required in order to do something like Tony Bloom's Altered Grounds, because although that goes up high, there's also an underground component that requires engineering and planning and other departments to be involved. For that reason, it's an internal piece, so that we can also look, okay, when is there capacity to maybe do a major versus a minor versus a temporary art installation, and look at that piece. And that's aside from the community engagement on public art components.
Perfect. Thanks, Ms. Leclerc.
Dr. Cottle, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, thanks for that. I was going to make sure we spoke to that. And in addition, just a reminder that council does make appointments to the Cultural Advisory Committee, which when we have a public member here, because in part they were involved in hiring this consultant to get to this plan. So yeah, the fact that someone from the public is actually here in the meeting, I think is indicative of how much engagement we do have around public art.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Ms. Hatcher, thank you so much for coming and doing such a great report. Could you tell us a bit more about the % for public art funding model? I think it's a great idea, but if you could have some insight on what size communities usually are when they take on that funding model, or pitfalls or really great opportunities with that, I'd love to know more.
So the town currently has a per capita funding model with the 0.5% allocated through the public art and microgrant policy. Increasing just the public art to 1%. 1% is very common across municipalities throughout North America, regardless of size. So it is a bit of a standard practice. How that 1% is managed is different. So looking at a variety of factors as to whether it is tied directly and only to capital projects, which had been the standard practice for many, many, many years. That is shifting now, and in the last number of years, municipalities are moving towards taking that 1%, and rather than just having it allocated to the capital project, and in some cases it was where the capital project was being installed or built, that is where the public art went, which did not necessarily align with accessibility, right? Because sometimes they were out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the blue ring in Calgary. Yeah.
Calgary as an example, maybe we're not going to go there. But actually the city of Edmonton, a couple of years ago, reallocated so that the funds went into a pool, and that pool then became the opportunity to look at a variety of different types of art in a variety of different communities, and removing just that primarily central opportunities to other parts of the city. And so when looking at the geographic makeup of Canmore, you have a lot of area that could have some really interesting enhancements through public art. And so having a fund that is dedicated, sort of public art reserve fund through the art trust or reserve, is an opportunity to expand those opportunities rather than solely focusing on either the town center or sort of the outlying around area, so that more people and residents primarily have the opportunity to engage in that the dynamicness that public art can provide. And again, in all different ways, whether it's performance or a temporary work or a seasonal work. There's lots of different ways to think about public art as well, and what it actually is doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And this is more of a fun question, because you've seen a broad inventory of what we have in our community. What was your favorite piece?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I do love the Tony Bloom piece.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And when I came out I did a couple of site visits, and when I do site visits for work like this, I don't come with a map or anything. I'm like, I want to find where the things are, and I ask local people, where can I find this? And it's interesting when you go into communities and nobody knows what you're talking about, versus people are like, oh, it's in that park over there. And it was interesting coming to Canmore and hearing from people, oh, I know where that is. And, a couple of people would talk about it and say, oh, you've got to go down this road. And so we would drive down that road, and there it was, right? Or they might not know exactly. But that was pretty special to come across.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. I'm really proud of all of the art that has arrived in Canmore, the Bakehead, the controversial Chinook, Tony Bloom's work. so many bronzes, the murals, fantastic. And look forward to it even being more, being guided by a plan such as this. So thank you for your time here today and for presenting. And thank you to Ms. McClett and Ms. McPherson as well for your contributions as well. And I hope you've received some feedback or confirmation about this moving to the next stage. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to take a break until 2:10 and see you then. We're good? We're back? Okay, we're back from our break. And now we move to item D2, Bow Valley Workplace Inclusion Charter. And Dr. Caudill, you're going to start things off?
Yes,
I am.
I'm here, actually, I'm really excited to introduce you to Lauren McCreary, who I don't believe has presented to council before. Lauren is a relatively new staffer in our HR department, and she brought a whole support crew in the back there with her. So Lauren is our HR business partner. Is that right? It's a new position for us in the HR department, and we've been really fortunate to have her in this role. She's done a lot for the organization in terms of performance plans and development plans and leadership training. But one of the other really important things she's doing is leading our internal reconciliation, equity, diversity, and inclusion committee. And we've been trying to get that group off and running for a while, but it's been side of desk for everyone. And since Lauren has been in this role and leading it, we're actually making really great strides in a pretty meaningful way. And so she's here today to tell you about one of the initiatives that group took on under her leadership. So over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sally, and nice to meet you all. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yep, we can.
Great.
Welcome.
Awesome. So as Sally mentioned, I'm here to just provide an update on a really great initiative that our REDI, or READY committee, endeavored to participate in this past year, called the Workplace Inclusion Charter. And this is an initiative of local employers that come together to really ultimately try to create more inclusive workplaces. And so this was attractive to us as a committee because we are really committed to these sorts of goals. So I'm going to walk you through what the Workplace Inclusion Charter entails, some of the commitments that we focused on achieving, as well as the recognition status. So as I mentioned, the town of Canmore is committed to advancing truth and reconciliation and equity, diversity, and inclusion. And while all town of Canmore employees play an important role in this, it's really the READY committee that plays a leadership role in advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion across the organization, with a goal truly to advance policies, programs, and initiatives that create and foster a safe, welcoming, and inclusive workplace free from barriers. We work collaboratively to forward initiatives that build a diverse, inclusive, and equitable workplace. And this creates a more productive, engaged, healthy organization that can positively impact the diverse people that we serve within our community. So what is the WIC? So Workplace Inclusion Charter, I'm going to call it the WIC. This is an initiative that's led by the Bow Valley Immigration Partnership. Started a couple years ago, and it's really expanded since then. The charter is a regional initiative focused on helping employers make practical, achievable improvements to workplace inclusion. And I think that's the key piece of it, is it's really about how do we practically achieve inclusion. The charter is truly designed to be realistic and supportive of employers rather than compliance-based. The WIC was co-designed by local employers, which kind of just is a nice nod to reconciliation principles. Each year, employers who previously participated help to design what the future commitments will be for the year ahead. And then from there, Bow Valley employers can decide to sign on, and they do that by signing a declaration, and then they announce it to their organization. Really kind of a meaningful act towards fostering more inclusion. And then in the months that follow, they work together within their resources to achieve the commitments. In 2025, there were over 20 signatories, and I'll get into how we play a role in that in the future slide. So participation in the WIC involves taking action on a number of required and optional inclusion-based commitments, and depending on the number of commitments that an employer is able to accomplish, they achieve bronze, silver, or gold. So we signed on as an organization in June 2025, so partway through the year, after the READY committee determined that not only did we have capacity, but we had an interest in participating Fundamentally, the goal was to see how we can demonstrate to our employees and the organization our commitment to inclusion. We aimed for bronze because it was our first year. We weren't sure, how it would go and how the resourcing would land. And so that was the goal, and also to do this within existing resources. So I'm just going to get into some of the nitty-gritty here. I'm not going to go through every single commitment, but certainly if you have questions, please let me know. So the WIC has a set of foundational commitments, and these foundational commitments must be achieved in order to earn your bronze level with the WIC. So in summer 2025, we announced that we joined and signed the declaration to all employees through a CAO email from Sally. And really that was intended just to let folks know that we've signed on and that we'll be in touch with more information and providing some resources and tools related to the various commitments to our employees. And then fast forward in November, we provided an update after a bunch of work was completed by the READY Committee to achieve various commitments. And so, for example, I'll just highlight a couple. The first that I wanted to highlight is our Central Information Hub. This one's a really practical commitment. Simply, it is a requirement to post somewhere, either online or in person, resources related to settlement services, as well as wellness-related resources for employees, mostly targeted towards newcomers, given that the Bow Valley Immigration Partnership is the one that spearheads this work. But there's also great value in those resources for all employees. And so that was a commitment that was taken on by one of our committee members, and they brought this back to their department and invited some folks from their department to participate in creating just a simple board, a Central Information Resource Board that's in our Civic Center staff kitchen. So really accessible and easy for folks such as yourself as well, if you'd like to go up there and take a look. The other one that I wanted to highlight is inclusive job ads. And so the town of Canmore already had equal opportunity language within our job ads. All job ads had language to invite folks from underrepresented groups and to also provide an accommodation process for anyone facing disability. We saw this as an opportunity simply to review that language and to enhance it. So that enhanced language is now included in all of our future job ads. So we did complete all 5 of the foundational commitments, and then we moved on to advanced commitments. So we thought, let's challenge ourselves and see what can we manage within our existing resources with a focus on policy, some training, and collaboration. And I will just highlight a couple more of these. So we did complete an additional 6 of 11 commitments, which was a great achievement for us. And the 2 that I wanted to highlight are policy related. So the first one around flexible time off, which some of you will have heard about in prior council meeting regarding our time away from work policy. And so really the requirement here is for employers to adopt a flexible time off policy that allows for or accommodates diverse cultural traditions and holidays. And so the town achieved this by updating our time away from work policy to include recognition of religious holidays that are not covered by current statutory holidays. And this was announced to our staff at a General Assembly in 2025. And then the other policy-related commitment that I wanted to highlight for you was taken on by our committee and focused on adopting a policy and standard operating procedure for the use of interpretation and translation. And we achieved this by creating an SOP and process map that explains that 3 of our important health and safety documents are available in not only English, but French and Tagalog, and that employees may ask for other documents to be translated if they wish. I also just wanted to highlight that our Town of Canmore website does have a feature allowing folks to turn on a different language to translate. There are multiple different languages, making it a very accessible website. So you may be wondering, what about the remaining commitments? And so just as a refresher, we were aiming for bronze, we were shooting for silver, and the remaining commitments we were unable to achieve, but this was kind of by design. A couple of considerations here. Some of these we're going to take resources that we simply didn't have to accomplish. And as well, you'll see several of these that are training related, and the training dates didn't align with our capacity at that point in time. I want to highlight as well for you that the Workplace Inclusion Charter is intended to be flexible for employers, and again, it's not compliance-based, so the intention is to provide employers with flexibility in what commitments they seek to accomplish and determine which commitments will likely have the most impact on their organization. So super proud of our team, our committee of highly engaged leaders and staff who worked together to achieve Silver Workplace Champion status. And as I mentioned, it's a team effort. Like, this really extended beyond even the committee. Our folks who took on the different commitments brought this back to their departments and worked with them to collaborate on achieving the commitments that we had selected. So in closing, I think this was a really successful initiative. Our next steps are to go to a celebration event that's hosted by BVIP in February, and then following that, we will likely be a part of the group that informs the 2026 Workplace Inclusion Charter. So that is all. Any questions?
Thank you very much, and well done to all involved. That's really quite a fantastic, positive step forward, and overshooting original expectations. So good job to you and to everyone involved, and thank you for your presentation, Ms. McCreary. Looking to questions, Councillor Marin.
Thank you, Mayor Crowser. Thank you for the presentation. Congratulations on Silver. It looks like there was a lot of work put into this committee and these efforts, so I think it's fantastic anytime that we can support a diverse workplace, including those with English as an additional language and newcomers to Canmore, Canada, all of those. I'm just wondering, so with the 5 advanced ones that we didn't meet this year, is there a plan to incorporate those this year? I know that there's capacity limitations as well as training and just scheduling and timing, but I'm just wondering if those are the same this year, if they've changed, or if there's a goal to achieve those ones as well in 2026.
Great question. So the Workplace Inclusion Charter employers will be meeting to determine what the next commitments will be, and so certainly those commitments may stay the same, but my guess is that they'll probably shift a bit. I have an inkling that just through some discussions that there might be some more flexibility as to the training category and how employers achieve that. As you may be aware, the town of Canmore does offer quite a bit of training related to truth and reconciliation, as well as equity, diversity, inclusion for its employees that weren't recognized through the WIC. And so our hope is to see that work can kind of also fit underneath the Workplace Inclusion Charter. With respect to what we're aiming for next year, I assume we're probably going to try and at least maintain the silver status, and we're a bunch of high achievers, so I would also guess maybe aim for gold.
Yeah.
Fantastic, great, thank you.
And of course, it's a different thing to have 50% of your employees trained if you have a staff of 10 versus over 400.
Yes, that's a great observation. In terms of how those were determined, the thresholds for the training commitments, the organization that offered the training, they were the ones who determined what they felt was the right amount of kind of delivery. And so you'll notice there wasn't consistency across the different topics as to who and how many needed to complete the training.
Great. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. I was hoping maybe we could kind of take a bit of a meta-analysis, and I was hoping you could help with understanding. My question is, what is inclusion? What are the groups of people that we're doing work to include? And why do we need to do that work? Why are these groups not included already?
So I don't have like the textbook definition of inclusion. It's usually inclusion often when we're talking about this field, diversity, equity, inclusion. is one piece. We want to ensure that all employees, regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation, disability status, language, ethnicity, etc., feel included in our organization and not excluded. And so that's really what this work is about, is to ensure that all people can meaningfully participate within the organization, and we want to try to reduce barriers to participation. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. And from the perspective at this table, do we have an EDI policy? I know that there are municipalities out there that have anti-racism, diversity and inclusion, or equity, diversity and inclusion policies that are council approved, and how does that work for our organization?
So we have a respectful workplace policy, and we also have a discrimination and harassment prevention directive policy, something to that effect. And so those tend to be the kind of guiding documents. I know that the committee is going to be tabling a topic around the respectful workplace policy to see what opportunities there are to enhance the language with respect to equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Crowser. Thank you, Ms. McCreer, for your presentation. Councillor Merritt actually already asked the question that I was going to ask, so I just wanted to say, in this age where we often hear stories about pushback against inclusionary workplace policies, it's great to see us actually pushing forward on this. And, it's one thing to say we're an inclusionary workplace, but this is actually proof that we're actioning these things, and we truly are. And it's not something we have to do, but it's something we should be doing. So it's really important work. So thank you to you and everyone else involved in actioning all this stuff over the last year.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you all for all the work that you've been doing on this file. It's super important. I just had a quick look at the website because I didn't know you could change languages on there. And I don't see any Indigenous languages on there. Is that?
That's an interesting observation and a great observation. I am wondering if my colleague in communications is here and could speak to that for me.
I'm glad they came. The short answer is no. It is something that we've talked about. It's not something that's within the capability of our website host right now. So,
if somebody of an Indigenous background wanted a document translated, would we be able to do that?
it's a good question. I don't know the answer, probably.
Just to add to that, I think, the SOP that we've developed is intended to make that accessible. So if the requests were made, we would try to make that happen.
Dr. Cottle, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say we don't have any kind of standing relationship for Indigenous translation. We would endeavor to do it if asked. It's mostly our ability to do that is for employees, not for the general public. And it's not because we're not interested, but you have to have a good translator to be able to do the work for you. And at this stage, we don't have that relationship or knowledge to be able to do it.
I wonder if there are tools that will do that for you. I don't know.
It's not a question we've been asked, so we haven't tried to solve it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. McCreary, for a great presentation. I think one of the interesting parts when you mentioned the three languages, right now we have English and French and Tagalog. Is that because the Filipino community serves a significant, like the largest visible minority subset of our town of Canmore employees?
So I didn't lead this particular commitment. I'm going to pass it to Sally.
Yeah.
I can help with this. In part, that happened because we had a health and safety audit a few years back, and it was an internal audit, which means we've trained staff to be certified in health and safety, the health and safety program. And it was feedback from the two staff at the time who led the audit, where they were experiencing when they were in the audit, there were employees who were using translation tools because they felt that their English wasn't strong and they wanted to answer the question correctly.
Okay.
And it was at their advice that we looked to begin to translate in those two languages because of what they saw when they were giving the audit. So I don't know that we have statistics to be able to answer the question, but that was the report back from staff from their experience.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Like many of us have said, congratulations to the town of Canmore for achieving that, and particularly for this committee and its hard work.
Thank you so much.
We'll now move to item D3, paid parking vendor changes and implementation. Ms. Miller, welcome.
Hello.
And take your time getting set up, and whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Okay. Hello, Committee of the Whole. Thank you for having me today. I'm Caitlin Miller, the Manager of Protective Services. I'm representing the paid parking team today with this briefing, where I will outline the operational changes for users of the paid parking program and detail parts of the implementation plan. Before I get into the vendor change, I just wanted to share a bit of background. Paid parking has been an effective tool for managing parking demand, reducing congestion, encouraging multimodal transportation, while offsetting costs of operations and enforcement. It has continued to help fund local roam transit routes and has provided vibrancy funding for the downtown BIA. The paid parking program is operationally supported by the municipal enforcement and finance departments, and strategically through the integrated parking management plan by the engineering department. As a part of the 2025-26 budget, Council approved a capital project for parking management implementation, which included a scope to explore the expansion of paid parking and return to the procurement process for paid parking vendors. The procurement process is complete, and 2 new vendors, T2 Systems and Pay by Phone, have been selected to support the paid parking program in Canmore. T2 Systems will be supporting the back-end permitting system, enforcement software, and the pay machines, while Pay by Phone will be supporting all online and mobile parking registrations or payments. The procurement process incorporated several operational learnings, and as a result, there are operational changes to the paid parking program that will be implemented when the new vendors begin providing service in March 2026. Parking management strategies, including the paid parking program, have evolved since implementation. In some cases, program and strategy changes were made as a result of council direction, and in other cases, administration made adjustments in alignment with the IPMP and where no additional funding was required. To confirm how program changes will be made and approved, administration presented a decision-making framework back at the October 3rd, 2023 council meeting, which I remember fondly. The parking management team, consisting of members of the Protective Services, Municipal Enforcement, Engineering, Finance departments, continued to use the framework to address parking management-related issues or recommendations for changes. So, what can we expect in March with the new vendors? Well, I'll get into some more of the details, but high level, we're going to have a new permit system, new app and web payment system, new pay machines, new rules for accessing the 3 free hours with resident permits, some changes to time increment options, and a new residential zone. So let's get into that. So to start, we will have a new permit system for all of our permits. All current permits are going to transfer over to the new portal with no interruption to the permit status. Just knocked there. Permit holders will be sent a link by the email on their account. Also, currently, there's an email associated with permit holders' accounts. They will get an email with new account information and to create a new password for that account. To help ease the change, we're also going to be providing a 1-year extension on all annual residential parking permits. So this means that only those users with temporary parking permits will have to apply for new permits when their temporary status ends, and monthly permit holders will still be required to renew and pay their monthly permit fees. Pay by Phone is the new app and web payment system that we're moving to. Parking users can pay by machine, app, over the phone, or on the web at canmore.ca/parking. Users can create accounts on the app or online for their payments to save their payment information online, but it's not a requirement of using the system. The big change is that now resident parking permit users must use an online option or on the phone to start their free hours. Pay machines cannot be used to access the free 3 hours. Currently, parking can be purchased in 15-minute increments. However, the new software standard configuration is for 30-minute increments, and maintaining a 15-minute increment is not possible without customization, which comes at an additional cost to the municipality per transaction. Following the transition to the new vendors, parking can be purchased in 30-minute increments, except where otherwise specified. For example, at Quarry Lake during peak season, where the minimum stay is 2 hours with the additional 1-hour increment. Administration did not pursue the customized 15-minute increment with the new vendors due to a new payment structure where the vendor charges on a per transaction basis. That means that even when no funds are collected, for example, when a resident parking permit holder utilizes some or all of their daily 3 free hours, there's still a transaction cost payable by the town of Canmore. Shorter increments are likely to result in more frequent extensions, which we would see that operational increase of expenses for the program. So 30-minute or 1-hour increments are standard for the majority of paid parking programs in comparable municipalities. Pay by Phone offers customer service support 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, meaning that all paid parking users should see a significant improvement in wait time for resolving issues related to their online and mobile payments. While users will still contact the town of Canmore paid parking team for inquiries related to permitting, pay machines, and enforcement, T2 Systems also offers around-the-clock assistance and resources to help administration quickly resolve any issues. I was just sharing with the team that I'm already getting updates as to when there's expected server outages, which is something that I don't receive right now. So it's nice to have the heads up if something's going to be down for a period of time. While the transition to new vendors may cause an initial increase in volume of online, phone, and in-person inquiries, the increased availability for support for both customer service and the Town of Canmore team is expected to reduce the average time needed to resolve problems and answer inquiries. While making changes to the paid parking program, there will also be an additional residential zone added. So during the November 9th, 2023 Finance Committee, Administration informed Council that we would monitor the impact of the expansion of the boat launch and riverside parking, paid parking areas that it had on the neighboring communities, and we'd adjust the resident parking permit zone as required. So the new resident parking permit zone will be added along Rundle Crescent to address the impacts of the boat launch paid parking implementation. Now resident or visitor permits will be required to park on Rundle Crescent to prevent spillover from the boat launch parking area. And this RPP zone will be absorbed into the regular enforcement patrols of the paid parking municipal enforcement officers. So over the next few weeks, administration will be busy configuring back-end pieces of the program. All public-facing changes will occur in March, with public information being shared on official Town of Canmore channels when appropriate. Permit holders will receive an email with their links to the permit portal and instructions on how to activate their accounts closer to the implementation go-live date. And pay machines and signage will be transitioned in the 2nd and 3rd weeks of March. So we should expect a disruption to the paid parking operations during that time. We won't be conducting enforcement while the signs and pay machines are transitioning over. And then we will be doing a team or a session of education while we're out there. So during the transition phase, members of the parking team will be available to assist permit holders in accessing their free hours. Parking team members are available in person at the Civic Center, by email at parking@canmore.ca, or by phone at our regular line, 678-1500. And the team will be out there as well. So the paid parking coordinator and municipal enforcement officers will be providing assistance out on the streets too. There will be a period of that education for residents, business owners, and monthly permit holders. For visitors, the impact is fairly minimal. It's just looking at the sign and choosing what vendor you're using. So we're not anticipating there being a lot of challenge there. But as we flip to just using the app and the online portion to access the free hours, we anticipate a little bit of a learning curve there. There is also a phone option, and we did check our stats, and it's under 6% of users, of resident parking users, are using the pay machines to access their free hours. So it was a very low number of users. We're also going to continue to work with interest holders like the Downtown BIA to help share information about the transition. That's all I have today, but I am sure that we'll have a question or two.
Thanks very much. I actually didn't know or had forgotten that you can access your 3 hours free through the machine. So
Forget it.
I thought it was all
Yeah.
through the app. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so that's good. But there is a segment of our population who still doesn't have the, like smartphones. And the 6%, I'm sure. Now, I find it interesting when you could just call. What does that look like? Do you say, hey, I'm calling from Canmore, permanent resident. Here's my license. Here's my license plate. Can I
That's
mark me
exactly
down
it.
for 2 hours? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to register for parking, here's my license plate. And then there's like it's an automated feature where you can input your license plate potentially, and
Okay, so there's
Yeah.
there's obviously a learning curve, and there will
yes,
be
yeah.
there will be a transition period. So I appreciate all the ways that you outlined for us of how that awareness will be getting out. Turning to questions, Councillor Hillstead.
Thank you, Mayor Crowser, and thank you for the presentation. You answered all my questions, but I'm still going to try to find one or two. With the transaction-based fee, is that the only fee we pay, or is there like a contract fee plus a transaction fee? Like, just out of curiosity, like compared to our old way, and like what's the differences? Because obviously there wasn't a transaction fee per thing before, so that's new. But is it similar or just completely different? I'm just curious.
Yeah, transaction fees are fairly standard in the paid parking world, is what we discovered through the procurement process. So while it's a change for how we had our contract set up previously, it'll be interesting to see how it impacts us operationally. If there is an impact, it could actually help, because we were paying just a lump sum fee before, and then had some per transaction not on resident permits. But with that came other challenges. So it seems to be a very standard thing that we discovered through the procurement process, that everyone's charging per transaction.
Thank you.
Councillor Marin.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Miller, for your update. I was not here at the October 3rd council meeting, so if I'm asking something that was addressed then, I apologize. I do also want to say, I think it's great that you've taken a look at the parking permit for Rundle Crescent and making changes based on that boat launch. I'm sure there's some residents there that'll be happy that that actually has been followed up on, and that it's not going to absorb that overflow parking from the boat launch. I did have a question about, so that 6% that still use the parking stalls or the payment stalls, if those people don't have a phone at all, so not even a smartphone, but they can't make a phone call, do they have options for accessing their 3 free hours of parking?
Yeah, if they come into the Civic Center, they would have access for those 3 free hours, because we'd be able to register them during business hours.
Okay.
Alternatively, if they found one of our parking staff, just on the off chance, I hear that she's everywhere, is what I'm told, but we'll see. But with that, we've also had a number of different interest holders downtown reach out about how to help support them by either having a QR code or having access to the site and just wanting more information. So Canmore Collaborative Health, for example, just recently reached out as to how they could help their patients register for parking or remind them to register for parking. So I think there's real opportunity there as well.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm just concerned about the accessibility for those who don't have a phone at all, as far as registering, and if they are able to come into the Civic Center, or it's not during the hours that the Civic Center are open. So I guess that might be a bit of a gap for, obviously a small portion of the population, but if there is no phone accessibility, that's going to be a challenge for some of the residents. And then my other question was, I recognize that there would be an additional cost for customizing for that 15-minute increments, and that by having the 30-minute and 1-hour increments, it's going to reduce the number of extensions. Was there a cost analysis done on what it would cost if we did go down that customization route of allowing 15 minutes, or just that it is more money because it's a transactional pay?
It will be more money. I don't have the number right in front of me, but I can pull it after.
Okay, yeah, I would just be curious to
know
know what that was.
Yeah.
I just, as somebody who does drive around town, I use the parking and the free parking quite a bit. So I know there will be some people that will, that losing that 15-minute increment will cause some inconvenience as they travel around town to different locations. So I'd be curious just to know what that number was, if it's readily available.
Yeah.
But if it's not, that's fine.
It is. I asked for it, but then I didn't put it into my notes here, so I can grab it after. One interesting thing about the 15-minute increment and the 3 free hours is the 3 free hours became quite a barrier in our procurement and our requirement that it be used in chunks. So a lot of vendors would offer it just as you had the 3 free hours, you could use it once.
Got it.
And we have that flexibility to, you can use your half hour here and then still go use your 2 hours at Quarry Lake. And that remained very important to us. So we chose that over going further down to have the 15-minute increments. And when we pulled the data, a lot of the times the 15-minute increments had the extension, which would then have an additional transaction cost on top of it. So those were some of the factors that we looked at as to what the operational impact was and whether it was worth it. And it was a determination made by our finance team and the operation team that it just didn't make sense to pursue it when the majority of people were still using 30 minutes by hitting 15 twice, because that 30-minute option had been gone and it didn't get used as much as I think we thought it was going to be used.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I have
Ms.
one.
Gibbon?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, well, and if I could just build on what Ms. Miller said, because I was the finance person that was part of that evaluation team, and even the financial implications, and I'm surprised I'm here to talk about the financial implications, but even setting aside the dollar value of the transaction fees and paying for the customization itself, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't also speak to how we're trying to move away from customizations with our IT implementations generally, and that it's not just the one-time impact, it's every time then there's an update to the system. The more we've customized it, the more fragility it introduces, the more cost there is on an ongoing basis to implement other changes. So the finance side of it was definitely one piece, but the other was just a concerted effort to try to use these systems as much as we can off the shelf so that we're using them the way they're intended. The off-the-shelf reporting works without us then needing to consider all the downstream impacts of additional changes. So just building on that, the dollar value is one part, and then also just a concerted effort to avoid customization where we can and where the usage data supports that that's a reasonable change to make.
Completely makes sense. Yeah, thank you for that further clarification. Final question, I promise. So I understand transitioning will be happening second, kind of third week of March. When do we plan on having this like fully transitioned? Like this is the new system, we're going to restart enforcement. And I know there can be delays based on implementation and possible challenges, but what's the plan for like this is done, here's the new system?
Our current date is March 19th.
Okay.
And then we anticipate during that time, but before and after, that's when enforcement might cease for a bit, more education focused, especially for residents.
The start of spring is a wonderful time to launch.
Thank you. I recognize there's a lot of work that's been done on the whole thing, so thank you
And
very much.
I think that there's some interesting thing to Ms. Gibbons' point, and also the question about, 3 hours free. That's, I think it's important that we never lose sight of the fact that we are one of the few that offer that sort of service, which is why it's hard to find in the procurement. You can get used to something pretty quick, but this is about going above and beyond for our residents and trying to make the paid parking as friendly as possible while it's serving a very important purpose in our community around transportation mode shift and costs of transit, et cetera. So, yeah, thank you. Councillor Ma.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Miller, for a great presentation. When I was looking at the picture of the Pave by Phone app, I was like, I think I've used that before. And I realized, when I was in Vancouver and in Seattle, and then I Googled it, it's been like in 1,200 cities, which is a really great choice. Any rumors about what's going on, like with our neighbors up above the highway there in Banff? Are they changing providers, or?
Yeah, they did indicate they're returning to the procurement process, but they have not yet done so.
Yeah, okay. Another question, I know we've talked a little bit about the challenge of customization, but say if we wanted to expand, well, here's the situation. I've had people that have like commercial vehicles, like buses, et cetera, and they're trying to be good neighbors where they're like, well, we really shouldn't park on the sidewalk anymore, but we can't really find any other spaces to rent to park our fleet. Would this software, this new app, would it allow us to say, operationalize our parking lots so that if they wanted to pay a permit pass to park commercial vehicles overnight on our lots, would that be a feasible option if we wanted to pursue that down the road?
Yeah, so the original capital project did include looking at the expansion of the paid parking program as well. Now that we're getting past the new vendor implementation, Ms. Pendon will be leading the next step into studying where we should expand paid parking, what that looks like, and from a commercial perspective, it's kind of one of those bigger wicked problems that involves a number of departments, including economic development, planning and development, engineering, protective services, finance, just from a holistic approach as to how we want to address it. So stay tuned for that one, more news.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Krausert, and thank you, Ms. Miller, for your presentation. I'm wondering what kind of consultation was done with residents on Rundle Crescent regarding the change to the street parking. Was there any outreach done there?
Other than the direct feedback from some residents that were being impacted by the paid parking, that's how we collect the feedback. We don't regularly go over and check. We just are listening to the concerns that come in. So we had concerns. We didn't go and inform anyone on that street that we are doing this yet. That's next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any concern about potential spillover onto Three Sisters Drive or Hospital Hill due to the change on Rundle Crescent there? Or?
We'll continue to monitor and
Okay.
see how it goes. We're constantly monitoring the residential zones, seeing what kind of compliance we have in them, if it's becoming a problem. There's a lot of free parking that is closer that people are accessing, so we're seeing more use of that. And we haven't had too many big complaints about resident parking zones in the past little bit. We're still looking at 7th Ave and monitoring that, but that's a heavily used paid parking.
Sure.
Or free parking area, so.
Sounds
yeah,
good.
it's half a dozen one, half a dozen the other, yeah.
And thank you. And one more question. I'm just curious about sort of if there's any like end of life cost burdens for changing our vendors, like for example, the uninstall of the parking infrastructure with our current provider. Who's responsible for that?
Yeah, so we did factor that into the capital project, just understanding that we would have the pay machines and may not be able to sell them readily, so they may go to auction if we can't find a purchaser for them or can't sell them for parts.
Oh, we own those pay machines.
We do,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yep,
Thank you. You learn something new every day.
there you go.
You can buy a paid parking machine and
I mean, I hear that they're a highly valued collector's item.
put them in your front yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to encourage residents too, that if they have concerns about, sure looks like a lot of visitors are parking up our street and whatnot to avoid paid parking, report or request, and that feedback through expressing concerns or providing complaints is actually excellent feedback to know where attention is needed.
Yeah.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. I hear Banff is looking for more of those terminals. But actually, on the terminal note, I know some people struggled to use them, and there were some challenges around that. I wonder if the new terminals, what they'll look like. I know some people struggle with glare, the screen where it was having to scrunch down. I saw us repairing them on a fairly regular basis. Can you speak to what the new terminals might look like?
That's a great question. I'm actually
I'm
not
full of
sure,
them
but I
today.
can get a picture of what they'll look like and I'll share it with everybody after.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Miller. I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you and your team, because paid parking is a heavy lift. It was a huge change for our community, and it's one that I think both the council at the time and our administration over the years has put significant effort in to meet the unique needs and the special circumstances of our community, especially given how expensive it is to live here, and the 3 free hours really does come down to an affordability factor. Going above and beyond so that we can do that for our residents, I think shows that we're listening and we're responsive. And I think even the evolving of the permit parking areas, this is something that we we'll always, every year for paid parking, we will always have to adjust the program for the circumstances. And so I'm just really grateful that we're continuing to look out for our community's needs while still pushing for mode shift, which is absolutely essential to our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much for your presentation. And just a note to the Communications Department, you know, Councillor Ma and I did a video about how to use Blinkay. You know, call our agents. I think we're available. Okay. Okay, item D4, Open Space and Trails Plan Update Project. Mr. Weldon, welcome.
Thank you.
Take a moment to get set up, and whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Great. Okay. I think we're set. So good afternoon, Mayor Councillor, members of council. I'm very happy and excited to be able to present to you today an update on the Open Space and Trails Plan update. As you know, trails and open spaces are super important to the community. It's where we recreate, it's where we connect, it's where we socialize, and it's really integral to Canmore's character, as well as our quality of life. So, super excited to be starting this project. So I'm going to start with some, so the presentation today is going to be some background and context, as well as an outline of the approach and methodology that we're going to take for the project overall. And we're going to end with an overview of what we're going to do for engagement for the project. The planning, the parks planning and development is really directed by a couple key documents that we have here at the town. So the first is our municipal development plan, and as you know, that is the overarching broad community direction for the entire community. There is direction on parks and open space. There is also direction in our integrated transportation plan, or our ITP, more specifically around our multimodal shift and our paved trails. So that provides a very broad overarching direction. However, the parks planning and development is directed more specifically by two key documents: our open space and trails plan and our open space development guidelines. The open space development guidelines, as you can see, was developed in 2005, over 20 years ago. So it's a bit outdated. But this document really provides guidance on the acquisition of our park space, so specifically our municipal reserve and our environmental reserve lands. It provides direction on the allocation, location, and distribution of our park space within our community. It provides definitions on the types of parks and open spaces. So this is, for example, a nature park, a regional park, a neighborhood park. So it really is in place to establish those types of definition and typologies. It also provides direction on the type of land and characteristics of land for open space that we should be acquiring through our planning and development process. So specifically, this is talking about the topography, this is talking about the shape, the configuration, and so on. And then lastly, it does provide direction on the function. And so what this is should the space be passive recreation? Should it be active recreation, like our sports fields? Should it be in place to protect nature and those kinds of things? So that's that document. And the main takeaway is that this is really more a technical and a regulatory type of document that provides really specific direction for our planning and development processes, such as conceptual scheme and subdivision. The next plan is our open space and trails plan. So the open space and trails plan.
We're just having an issue. Your slides aren't advancing on this.
Yeah, try unplugging and plugging it back in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
IT 101. Yeah. Or just hit it really.
Oh, boy. Okay. It's advancing on mine here, so. Sure.
What's that, there's a button up in the upper left, a slideshow.
Where's that, sorry?
Upper left of the screen.
Is it the like red little bubble thing?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unplugged in that tape.
Oh, I thought that would do it.
You know what? Hang on. Let's do this.
I'll play from the beginning. I'll play from the beginning.
Maybe hit play from the current slide. That'll work. And then
I think you accidentally hit the close button there, Mr. Stiver.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, and so, now it's back.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yay. All right. Okay. So 2 documents, the open space. The open space. Speaking, as I was mentioning, I was talking about the open space development guidelines. I'll now talk about the open space and trails plan itself. So this plan is a long-range planning document that really guides the development for the improvement of Canmore's parks and open spaces and trails. The purpose of this plan is to provide a comprehensive guiding document for functional open space and trails network. And the key word here is network. This plan is really focused on establishing an open space and trails network for Canmore, with the overarching principle of providing recreational opportunities with a range of abilities and interests. So the main difference between the two is one's super technical and is more regulatory, and this is providing more of the goals and objectives and principles around open space and trails in an overarching network perspective. Okay, it advanced, great, okay. So we have 2 documents, one that was created in 2005 and the other that was created ultimately in 2015 and then updated in 2021. So there is some overlapping and outdated information across the 2 documents. And one of the key aspects that we want to achieve in this plan is to ensure that these 2 documents are aligned with each other and are consistent. The other aspects of driving this plan is a lot has changed, particularly since 2005, but even from 2021. There's new development, there's new strategic direction that the town has created. Everyone knows that the area structure plans for Three Sisters are coming online and that development is coming online. Our community is growing. There's more visitors coming to our community. And so there's a lot of change. And so it's really timely to review these documents to ensure that they do reflect the community values and are meeting the community needs as well. The other aspect is that it's really timely because it does The timing is consistent with the review of our ITP, as well as, you may have heard, the Canmore Area Trails Master Plan, which is a provincial master plan for trails on provincial lands surrounding Canmore. So our timing of our review was purposely overlapped with those two projects. So now I'll switch gears and I'll start talking about the project itself. We are going to review the documents and we want to achieve the following objectives. I mentioned before that there's two documents. We want to consolidate that direction and guidance into one document. So one of the main goals is to create one comprehensive planning document. We want to set clear policy direction. We want to reflect the current community needs and context. We want to encourage our parks and open spaces to be creative, and we want to be innovative when we are designing and creating these spaces. We want to encourage and support social interaction and connectiveness. And we want to ensure the alignment with other town plans and our strategic priorities. We want to support the sustainable park, open space, and trails development. And lastly, as I mentioned about the Canmore Area Trails Master Plan, we do want to align and be consistent with that planning direction as well. I can't do this alone, and I'd like to introduce our project team. So with us here today, we have members from Ground Cubed and Frank Planning. We have Bronte MacArthur and Jenna McIntyre there with Ground Cubed. And Kelly Learned is with Frank Planning. And they're forming the project team and is going to help us through this process. So the process is broken into three broad phases. The first phase is we're going to do background and research and analysis of the current state. We're going to be looking at existing policies, data information, existing conditions, and best practices. That's going to be in Q1 of this year. That'll take us up to March. We will then start our engagement piece, and phase 2 is engagement, design, and reporting. And we will undertake meaningful and inclusive engagement with the key community partners and interest holders and residents. The information from that phase will then, this phase will be Q2 and Q3. We'll start from March and April into August and September. And that information will then be used to create a draft plan, which we will hopefully have ready in September in Q3. That will take us to the final phase, phase 3, which is the creation of the draft plan, re-engagement, and then final review and revisions. And that'll take us to coming back to council here, hopefully in December in Q4. Engagement. We are going to have two key engagement periods to gather input from the public and interest holders. The first period is going to occur after phase 1, which is the background and analysis. And it's anticipated to start in March and go through into April and May of this year. The second period will occur after the draft plan is complete, and that is anticipated in late Q3. We will share a What We Heard report to summarize the feedback that we received and explain how the input is considered and will be integrated into the plan. In addition to the broad public input, we'll ask for specific feedback on key parts of the plan. This includes our values, our principles, infrastructure improvements, and understanding the current experience of users. Our approach will include, is based on strong education, and that's to build community awareness and understanding of Canmore's parks, open spaces, and trails planning, and specifically within the development process. This is a coordinated approach for our engagement, and you've probably seen this this slide before. There are 3 main projects happening this year: the Open Space and Trails Plan, the Land Use Bylaw Review, and the ITP review as well. So we are taking a coordinated approach to our engagement. We want to avoid engagement fatigue of our residents, so we will be coordinating our approach to how we engage, including on this plan. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Weldon. I really appreciate receiving your update here, and I'm that last slide that you had, I'm thrilled that they're all happening at the same time. I just feel like there'll be good integration. I love the idea of an integrated approach to public engagement. It just feels like all the parts are going to be talking to each other.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And so that's really helpful. And it's timely that the Canmore Area Trail Master Plan is happening, because there's obviously elements where we need to make sure that there's alignment. Right.
Exactly.
So great. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Weldon, for your presentation. I didn't see it covered, but I wanted to ask about asset management and replacement policy and concepts when going through this work. How do you plan to ensure that what we deliver on will be something that we can afford to take care of and replace in the future?
Through the mayor to Councillor Faubert, that is a great question. Asset management is an important consideration for all of our infrastructure, all of our town assets, and our parks are town assets, our land and the infrastructure that's on that land. This comes up through our planning and development process, where certain infrastructures or amenities want to be included in certain developments. However, the cost of those and the cost to maintain that infrastructure and those amenities can sometimes, or they should be considered and can influence the decision on whether they actually get put in or not. So this plan will not get into the specifics of the infrastructure, the exact type of infrastructure that's going to be put on every single open space in that, but it will touch on providing guidance on the cost and infrastructure considerations for whatever the amenities that we might consider on these spaces. So, long explanation, but it is important, and we do need to consider it, and we will be looking at it through this plan.
Thank you. Councillor Marin.
Thank you, Mr. Walton, for your presentation. I have a question, but I also want to echo Mayor Crowsert's support for the integrated approach to the engagement. I think it's fantastic that there's some coordination going on there. I'm just wondering if you can provide a little bit more detail about what the engagement looks like. So I know in your report there's going to be a project page, online surveys, workshops, open house style events. I'm just wondering if you can expand a little bit on what that looks like, and whether we're reaching out to specific groups to make sure that they engage in that process.
Yeah, so I'll probably pass it over to Adam to get
you.
into some more of the kind of the specifics of the engagement itself, but we will be reaching out to specific groups. Ones that come to mind are BODA, our development industry, our user groups like CAMBA, and our environmental groups like the Biosphere. So we have gone through a process to identify who the key interest holders are, and making sure that we will be reaching out to them directly.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll maybe pass it over to
Mr.
Adam.
Robertson.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, excuse me, for sure. And I appreciate the comments around the integrated engagement. And we've actually added it to the February committee, the whole meeting, to come provide an update on what that looks like for all of those projects.
Awesome.
And a lot more details at that time. But I mean, in short, the engagement plan focuses on community as a whole. There's also a whole lot in there for stakeholders in each different plan. And I think most importantly, I just want to say we're really trying to, similar to what we did for Connect Downtown, we're really trying to have fun, make engagement interesting, and really get the community interested in coming out to different events. So we're working on some interesting and fun things, and in February we'll be able to share more.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I look forward to the update in February. I'm ahead of the game, I guess. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Krauser. Thank you, Mr. Weldon, for your fantastic presentation. I will also echo the great integration of all of these processes. I'm wondering how the plan or this process will integrate something that isn't our own, which is the big provincial master plan. I mean, how are you working with that? How are you prepared to pivot if things need to be pivoted? I'm just kind of curious if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. We strategically timed the open space and trails plan update so that we to coincide at least when a draft plan was created for the Canmore Area Trails Master Plan. We wanted to have a good idea on what was being presented in terms of a trails master plan for the region, so that our plan can then take that information and make sure that we're in alignment and consistent. We have been providing input into that plan as well. So it really is a good coordination from both the town and the province to make sure that we're in alignment. It's a good question though. Trail users don't see boundaries, right? We have our trail network, we have jurisdictional boundaries, and we're responsible for trails on town lands and within the town corporate boundaries. And then, you know, the province is responsible for their lands and their trails as well. And so part of the purpose of this plan is to make sure that there is that integration and consistency.
Just another thing I thought of, I mean, the name of this plan is very similar to the name of the provincial plan. How do we, from a communication standpoint, how are we differentiating this engagement so people are like, didn't I already go to an open house on that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is another really good question because, the province is actively engaging our community. It's called the Canmore Area Trails Master Plan, which does have connotations, and people automatically think it is a town plan or may have that interpretation. So that's going to be an important aspect of our communication and engagement plan, is to make sure that people do understand they are two different and separate plans. Ours is this project, and the province has that project. So it will be a challenge, but I think we'll be doing that through our communications team.
Well, it's good to know that's on the radar. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Krauser. Thank you, Mr. Weldon. Thank you. Similar lines, one of the shortcomings people are talking about in the Canmore Area Trails Master Plan is education and enforcement. And I wonder, will this document address those aspects of the trail networks?
It will, from a town of Canmore perspective. But as mentioned earlier, I meant education and enforcement within our network and not within the provincial document. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of confusion between these two documents. But are we addressing that portion in our document? We will be talking about communication and education, as well as trail maps and wayfinding as well. So it is an important aspect for user satisfaction, user safety. You have to be educating people on proper trail etiquette, for example, human-wildlife conflicts and those things. So we will be touching on that, how we will be educating the public as well as communicating those pieces for the town. And we also are hopeful that can also be consistent with, and like we're hoping that can also be included in the provincial Trails Master Plan, so that there is consistency around the communication and education piece generally, not just for the town of Canmore, but for the area as well.
And along everybody else's lines, I was sitting there listening to your presentation, man, and we're going to tire people out with the amount of engagement, and then you rocked right into that. So, very well done. I think, when I was first elected, one of the things that I didn't appreciate as much as I do now is the amount of engagement that the town does and how we conduct that. And I think, especially at my time here, we've done what I consider to be an outstanding job on engagement. I expect that to continue. So, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great, and that looks like all the questions, so thank you for the update.
You bet. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing it roll out and all the opportunities to provide feedback from the community and how these plans speak to each other. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, so we'll move through the standing items then for the remainder of our committee of the whole. I'm just going to open it up. We've all had a chance to read the councillor updates and the administrative updates. So first of all, with the councillor updates, E1, just looking to see if anyone has any questions whatsoever for whoever they want. Going. Gone. Okay, so now we'll do the same thing. We've all had a chance to read the administrative updates, and rather than going section by section, I'm just going to open it up. Yeah, caution to the wind, open up those floodgates, and here we go. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to find it.
Okay.
So it was the functional art grant program for downtown.
Which page?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's what you're looking up. Yeah.
Arts and Culture, Main Street. A functional art challenge. I was just kind of take off of the public art plan presentation earlier. I was really excited to see the functional art challenge incorporate accessibility into it. And my question is, this is a capital project. Would we do this again next year? Because sometimes there are things that when it's operating and we put it in the operating budget as a grant, sometimes it carries to the next year as well. And I'm just wondering if the functional art challenge is envisioned as a one-year only capital project.
Dr. Cottle?
Yep. Right now, it's just a one-year capital project. So this is the kind of thing that admin would implement and then evaluate and determine if it's something that they want to continue again. So it would be in front of council. Capital budgets will always need to come back to council for approval, but I believe this is a kind of a trial balloon, see how it goes. So maybe. But council will know if it's coming back and it's going to happen again.
Imagine this is the sort of thing that also you don't know what comes of it, and there may be something like, wow, that is a fantastic idea. Let's do that and let's make it permanent type thing.
Right.
When you have these functional things, and it could lead to a different type of project. Yeah.
And sometimes, like cumulatively over many years, we can increase our inventory of things that make our community better when we add little things over time. And I guess when I was reading this, it didn't click to me that it was a capital project. And so my question was thinking that it was operational, and I apologize for that.
No, it's a good question, and we'll see what it turns out, and there'll be more to come.
Okay. Yep, good question. Interesting project. Looking for any other questions on anything else within the administrative update that people would like to seek further information on? Gone. Okay then, anything arising from the council resolution action list? Seeing none, I will then move that we adjourn. All those in favor?